This episode of the Therapy as a Christian podcast is brought to you by You're Going to Make It by Lisa TerKeurst. Y'all, I am so excited to tell you about this devotional. So first of all, y'all know I love time with God. I talk about it as being one of my non-negotiables for my mental health. And it is one of the things that has kept me grounded throughout my mental health journey and keeping me grounded just in general as a new mom, a wife. And so I know that the last 3 years have been a lot for a lot of us, especially myself. I had 2 kids in the middle of a pandemic, as well as just being able to balance a new business, podcasting, everything in between. And so I've experienced a lot of disappointments and a lot of hardships throughout these last 3 years. And I know that a lot of us have experienced something maybe similar for yourself. So when I first got the devotional, I have to tell you first, it is absolutely beautiful, not only on the outside, but definitely on the inside. And being able to just read all of the devotions that Lisa put in here, you can really tell there was a lot of heart and thought put into these things for those of us who might be experiencing some difficult times. Lisa not only is a New York Times bestselling author, but she has wrote so many amazing books, and she wants to help you stay connected to God and continue loving others, even in the middle of discouraging, disappointing, or even devastating circumstances. You're Going to Make It contains 50 morning and evening devotions that help you bookend your day with God. Start the morning with a Bible verse and a statement of truth to remember throughout your day. Then find space to write and release something back to God at the end of your day and a prayer to receive before you go to sleep to better prepare for tomorrow. That is just an absolutely unique way to write a devotional, and I think that we all don't usually think about starting and ending our day with God. And this devotional gives you the opportunity to do so. So I'm super excited because listeners of the Therapy as a Christian podcast get an exclusive $2 off the Amazon price during the month of April. Type in "to make it" at checkout to get the discount. That's the number 2 plus MAKEIT, or look at the direct link with the coupon applied in my show notes. I can't wait for you to get the devotional. Now let's get back to the show.
These days, I do all my shopping online. Clothes, books, outfits for my dog. I love it. Then I thought, why not get my groceries delivered too? So I downloaded the Instacart app, and sure enough, it has all my favorite stores. Macy's, Lynn's, Fresh Market, Dan's, Dick's. Everything I need delivered right to my door. Oh, the dog treats are here. Download the Instacart app or visit instacart.com to get free delivery on your first order. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum order $10. Additional terms apply.
Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. So quick introduction before we get into this week's episode. I'm so excited. I am bursting at the seams to tell you about this week's episode, as it's a little bit different. So this is going to be a podcast takeover. If you love mental health content or follow this amazing woman on Instagram or TikTok, you are going to be in for a treat. If you've never heard of her, girl, I can't wait for you to listen to this week's episode. So this week's episode is actually going to be a podcast takeover by the amazing Kobe Campbell. If you are aware of her content and know anything about Kobe, she is an award-winning licensed trauma therapist, author, media expert, and speaker. So Kobe is coming out with a new book. It's called Why Am I Like This? How to Break Cycles, Heal from Trauma, and Restore Your Faith. Kobe helps readers understand why it's so hard to break patterns as she offers them a deep understanding of how their past shapes their present. With tender wisdom, rare vulnerability, and profound honesty, Kobe reminds each reader that you are not alone as she empowers them to step into healing with evidence-based, faith-filled coping skills and resources. If you are anything like me, love this podcast, you are going to by far love this book. So if you're interested in purchasing Kobe's book, go to the link in the show notes. You can get it right now, and you will be able to take part in really being able to heal, understand trauma, and understand it from a faith perspective. Again, if you are interested in the book, Why Am I Like This? How to Break Cycles, Heal from Trauma, and Restore Your Faith, check out the link in the show notes. So now let's get into the episode with Miss Kobe Campbell. The Therapy is a Christian podcast is all things mental health and Christ. We specifically talk about how mental health and God are merged together to foster growth, healing, and making mental health a normal conversation. I'm your host, Rosin Renee, and welcome to the show. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Healing Circle podcast. I'm Kobe.
I'm Kyle.
And this is Kyle, and we're so excited to be back with another episode. Let's jump right into it, babe.
Yeah.
Today we're going to talk about patterns. So when you think of the word patterns, what comes up for you?
Why Am I Like This? Book that comes out April of 2023. Where's my camera, guys? That one? You? Hey, you. Buy the book. Was that what you were looking for?
It wasn't what I was looking for, but
Okay.
I'll tell you what, it actually does feel very good how shameless you are at promoting me.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good feeling. Is
Yeah,
it
I
because
told
I'm your
you when
cash
we got
cow?
together that I wasn't marrying you just because you're gorgeous. I just knew one day you were going to be super famous, and I want to ride on your coattails.
I'm okay with that.
Very romantic. I think everyone wants someone to say, hey, it's not you, it's your future money that I'm after. So it just so happens you're fine, right? So, I'm just doing my part, guys. She's going to be the next Oprah, and I'm going to be Stedman.
And
Y'all
I'm
want to
okay
come to
with
my houseboat or whatever I'll be living on. Come
your
through.
chateau. Oh, Lord. Well, we are talking about patterns today. That was not just a pitch to Kyle to promote my book. I wanted to talk about patterns today specifically because it is the number one reason why people seek out therapy with me. People usually come to therapy with me and they're like, first I'm like, what brings you to therapy? Like, what are you seeking services for? And the thing that they always say is, I want to stop doing blank, or I want to start doing blank. It is always about like, there's something I want to stop doing and I just can't figure out how to stop. Or there's something I want to start doing and I just can't figure out how to start. And when they say that, like internally, I'm like, and I tell them I can help them because I can, especially if it fits my competency. But more than anything, it's always a journey. And I love this journey. It's always a journey into them seeing how the patterns they can't change are a reflection of the pain they haven't addressed yet. Like patterns are on the surface and we want to change the surface, but we don't want, it's almost like we want to change the fruit of the tree without changing the soil. We're like, how do I just get different fruit? How do I make this orange tree produce pears? And it's like, I understand what you're trying to do, but the reality is in order for you to get pears, you need the seed of a pear. If you want it to grow in a better way, if you want more fruit, then you have to change the soil, and it's root work, right?
Yeah.
You have to do like the root work. You can't just, I heard this from E.T. I love him. E.T. the hip hop preacher, AKA the GOAT, AKA
Goated, yeah.
my bishop. He said like, you can't keep doing leaf work. You can't keep tending to the leaves. At some point you have to get to the root and do root work if you really want to see like real transformation. But it's okay if the way that you get to the root is first through tending the leaves.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to jump into getting super deep first, but it is important for you to understand why the patterns you're trying to change aren't changing, why the patterns you're trying to begin just aren't like taking off, or why the momentum, it just isn't sticking, that it matters, like that you understand why it's happening. And so I want to kind of jump into like the neurobiology of patterns. So when we talk about patterns, we're not just talking about things that we are like what's the word? Doing
Compulsively?
Oh my gosh. Guys, do I know words? Things we're not doing compulsively.
New York Times bestselling author Kobe Campbell.
Things we're not doing reflexively. I'll use that word.
There you go.
A little easier on the tongue. Things we're not doing reflexively. Our patterns are the things that we do that become easier and easier to do the more we do it. But every single pattern is a response or a way to cope with something.
It's a response to something, or it's a way to cope with something. So when we think about the neurology of it, so I'm trying not to like get too nerdy.
I'll do it.
It'll confuse some people. But long story short, every action, every thought, every feeling creates something called a neurological pathway. These neurological pathways are essentially the circuitry of our brain of how we operate and the things that we do or don't do, right? So every pattern has like a pathway. Think of the pathway as like a highway. If you have been waking up and brushing your teeth every single morning for the last 20 years, that pathway is a highway, right? That thing is, you get on, you get off. It's nice and smooth.
Four
it's
lanes,
paved.
Yeah,
yes.
They ain't doing construction on it like the 704 or whatever here in Charlotte every single day.
For sure.
It's
for
established.
Sure. Yes, it's established. It's established. But do you ever get that weird sensation when you're trying something new and it just feels physically awkward? Like physically, it feels weird. You're just kind of like, this feels weird. I'm trying something new. Or that sensation of like, I don't know how something works, or I'm struggling to understand something. Your brain is creating a brand new neurological pathway, right? So when you do something new, you're creating new neurological pathways. And this whole process of being able to create new neurological pathways is called neuroplasticity. So think about this. Is your brain, which is meant to, our brains are lazy. So let's say that. And our brains are meant to keep us safe. They're lazy, meant to keep us safe. Is your brain going to take the 4-lane highway when trying to do an activity? Or is your brain going to try and take the dirt path, which is trying something new, right? Which one's easier? The 4-lane highway, right? So for a lot of us, there are things that we did, thoughts that we thought, feelings that we felt in response to external stimuli. And we did it over and over and over and over and over again. Our brain is neurologically meant to hold on to the patterns that we've already been engaging in. That's why change is so hard, right? And so we have to ask not just why can't I change, we also have to ask why is the pattern there in the first place, and what function and what role does it play in our lives, right?
So like the whole highway, neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
So that's how I can like get up and drive to work and not realize I ever took a turn.
Yep.
Right.
Or when you're driving one place and you end up in a complete different place because your brain was
you end up driving home when you meant to go to the store, and you're like, how did I get here? You kind of wake up to it.
Yep.
Or even like, this doesn't happen as much anymore, thank God. But there's a time in my life, especially early in my healing journey, when I would find out that I had said something mean about myself in my head. Yeah. So I would like do something, and I'd almost like be the last person to realize that in my head I called myself stupid.
Yeah, like, oh, you're so like, dumb. Like, I'm an idiot.
It's like reflexively, like it just happened. And then I'm like,
yeah.
Well, I guess I am dumb. You know, that's what I used to do. Now I'm like, no, I'm not dumb.
Yeah. I'm learning.
I'm a good, we tell our son Levi, like he's not a bad kid or whatever. He's a good kid having a hard time.
That's right.
Right? So I'm like, oh, no, I'm not dumb. I'm a good Kyle. Just having a hard time.
That's right. That's right.
But that's all like part of that pathway stuff.
Yeah, for sure. It is. So when we build these neurological pathways, it's from repetition, right? So we learn through repetition and we unlearn through repetition. A lot of people fall into the myth of believing that we learn based off of the knowledge that we have. That's not true. You learn through repetition, you unlearn through repetition, right? So you can do something every single day. I can be a sedentary person, which I kind of am, every single day of my life, right? If I somehow learn that I can lose 30 pounds by doing this like Shanti workout situation, just because I have that knowledge and the desire does not mean I have the physical capacity to act on that knowledge. And it's going to take me several times of trying to actually accomplish doing that, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us, we try one time, we try 2 times. I know better. I'm so dumb. It's because I'm lazy and because I'm this. We say it to ourselves and then we say it to other people too. Like, you know better. Knowing better does not mean you have the capacity to do better. Attaining knowledge and implementing that knowledge and applying that knowledge to our lives, it all takes different parts of the brain, right? So like many of us think that we we think that the patterns are just like moral failures. I keep doing this because I just don't want it bad enough. I keep doing this because I'm lazy. I keep doing this because I just like, I don't understand, or like there's a breakthrough I need. There's something. It's like, no, you learn through repetition. You're going to unlearn through repetition. But before we even get to the learning, unlearning, let's talk about what function that pattern plays, right? All patterns play a role in our lives, right? All patterns are a response to something. This pattern that you're struggling to let go of, or you're struggling to hold on to, right? What role does it play in your life, right? And something I often ask my clients is like, what is the momentary benefit of this pattern, right? Because patterns...
The pattern that you want to stop.
Yeah, the pattern that you want to stop.
So they come in saying, I want to stop this. And you ask them,
and
what are you getting from it?
Yeah, what are you getting from this? And they're just like,
that's a good question.
They're like, nothing. It's terrible. I hate it when I do this. And I'm like, no, you're getting something out of it. You're getting something. Now, the cost benefit analysis is like, you're not getting as much as you're losing, right? But you're getting something out of it. And you're not going to be able to let go of it until you acknowledge what you're getting out of this pattern.
Because you're still going to need that something, even if you lose the pattern.
And you're just going to pick up another pattern.
Bro, you got to be a therapist. Like, you got to spread the good news of whatever it is you just said. That's wild.
You're going to just pick up another pattern and then get frustrated at yourself for the same heart issue that's showing up in a different place. And that's why I tell my clients, like, listen, this is about heart transformation, not behavior modification. Like, you're worried about changing how you act, but if you change the soil of the seed, that affects what you're going to bear fruit. That affects what's going to come out on the outside. Yeah. And so, like, we can keep trying to cut off the branches. We can keep picking the fruit so no one sees what it is. But at the end of the day, it's going to keep showing up, right? And so, like, when we don't recognize what these patterns give us, we struggle to let go of them. So one thing we have to understand is all patterns are self-destructive. All negative patterns are self-destructive and self-protective. It's taking something from you. It's also
self-destructive and self-protective.
Right? Isolation.
Good. Clip that.
Isolation, for example, right? When we engage in persistent isolation, what are we protecting ourselves from? Vulnerability, ridicule, embarrassment, being seen by people we don't trust, feeling unsafe, right? But what are we destroying? Our ability to connect with other people, our ability to have a sense of accountability, our ability to experience acceptance. But what happens is we are staying in that isolation because we're trying to protect ourselves. But just because you build a wall, the same wall that keeps people out is trapping you in, right?
Yeah.
It's one wall, but it has two functions, right? It's keeping you from getting out there, and it's also keeping people from getting in, right? And so I think that for a lot of us, we don't realize that we have these patterns that offer us something. What's a pattern that you have? We didn't prep this, so I'm really interested to hear what you have to say. What's a pattern that you have that is both like self-protective, self-destructive, something that you like want to stop doing, but you can't stop doing it?
I would say self-talk, like negative self-talk, very specifically around like, how do I put it? For whatever reason, I'm like shame motivated.
Yes.
I don't want to be shame motivated.
Yeah.
But it's difficult for me to like do anything. I have to do a lot of emotional, mental work to do something without shaming myself into doing it. If I'm going to work out, it can't be because I want to be healthy. It's got to be because I'm ashamed of the way I look. I can say I want to be healthy all day long. It ain't going to get me out to bed. But if I think about what I saw in the mirror 2 days ago, I'd be like, hey, bro, they ain't going to have me out here in these streets looking like this. I got to get up. And it trickles, right?
Yeah.
Like it trickles into all these different, even in our relation, there have been seasons in our relationship where it was like, you could ask me to do something and I want to do it, but I had like no drive to go and do the thing you wanted me to do.
Yeah.
until it was like, dang, bro, I'm a trash husband. I guess like, so really you going to know what your wife wants you to do but not do it? I'm just I'm just like beating down on myself. And then I like find the energy. Oh, okay, now I feel like I can go do the thing.
Yep.
So I think about that. Like, it's obviously self-destructive.
Yeah.
But I think it's self-protective because
Yeah.
it's kind of like a lot of comedians like got, made fun of when they were younger. And so you learn to tell the joke before someone can tell it on you type thing. And I think in a lot of different ways, I felt like a lot of shame, or I felt like people were going to shame me. So it's always like, nah, bro, I'm better at it than you are. Like, what's that? You said, what about me? Nah, I can do it better. Kyle sucks. Like, and it made me feel like safe. Like, at least I get to control the narrative, even if it's a narrative I don't like.
Yes. And so like you're saying the momentary reward is control.
Yeah.
And like that control gives you a sense of safety. Right. So like, what do you think the detrimental effects are? Like the long-term detrimental effects that lead you to be like, I can't do this forever.
Having kids.
Yeah.
I think that's like one of the beautiful things that God gives you when you have children. You're forced to start to consider like your life differently. And it was fine when I was shame motivated. Yeah. But it's near impossible to pass something on that you are not. So I found myself like when I wanted to get my son's attention, I would like shame him. And when I wanted him to do something, I would like shame him. And I kind of became aware of it. I was like, oh, shoot. I don't have another way. I don't know how I don't understand people who like just be doing stuff for no reason.
Who are just motivated.
And so it's like, it was an issue when it was just me. But when the babies came along, it was like, no, I don't want him to have to do in his head all the things I have to do. So I'm going to have to figure something out. Yeah. And I've been figuring it out. But like, I think that was really it. Like, there are other answers, but that was really, when I saw my son's face, one of the first times I really like hurt his feelings. Just 2 years old. And you see those big eyes start to water, and it's like, dang, bro, over a juice box? Yeah. Like, over a juice box? Like, I can't do this. Yeah. I gotta figure something out.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I feel like our patterns are like Band-Aids, right? And like, they protect us from like the elements, right? But at the same time, if you take off the Band-Aid, you have to look at the wound. You have to be careful of like the wound that's there. And, I find with a lot of people that I work with, and even with myself, because I'm in therapy too, like there's this way that like underneath these patterns is this reality we're not ready to address. But with these patterns is a reality we know we can't keep living. Like, I can't keep living like this, but I also don't have the capacity to address what I'll have to face if I stop doing this thing, right? And so I've asked you this before, asked my clients this before, like whatever negative pattern that you're struggling with, that you're dealing with, if you could never engage in that pattern again for the rest of your life from this second on, what would you have to face that you have been trying to avoid?
First of all, I'll say that's a terrifying prospect. Just a terrifying question. Yeah. Like, what? Why? Wait, what? What? Why? And also, no. I think for me, if I didn't have shame to rely on, I would have to, in order to live the life that I live and that I want to live, I would have to believe fundamentally that I'm good. And I am just not there yet. Maybe intellectually I know it. Yeah. But I'd like the idea of walking around every day and being like, yeah, like I'm the right person to be in the room. I'm the best option for my kids as a father. Yeah. I'm the best option for my wife as a husband. Like I'm in this meeting with a bunch of millionaires and like I'm the right guy to be in the meeting. Yeah. Like I can say that. Yeah. It feels like it's a Grand Canyon between like living that, and it's pretty terrifying. I don't know. Again, the rest of you guys are weirdos because I don't know how you live your life without a voice saying, "Boo! Get this man off the stage!" constantly in the background.
This episode of the Therapy is a Christian podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. If you think you might be feeling depressed, stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, which I know we all have, BetterHelp is here to help. So I think about all the time when I first started therapy back in 2018, and if I had never taken the step, where my life would be at now, especially having had now become married, have a kid, going through a pandemic, being pregnant in a pandemic. And I remember just in general, when I got engaged to my husband right before starting therapy, how overwhelmed I was. Just the thought of, I'm about to commit my life to this person and I don't even know how to cope with anxiety and just feeling so overwhelmed all the time. And so I'm so thankful that I took the step to actually go to therapy, because I really believe I gained so many tools from having that experience. And now, still being in therapy now, 4.5 years later, I've learned so much throughout those different transitions, specifically just having a space for myself. So BetterHelp offers licensed therapists who are trained to listen and help you. When you talk to your therapist, you're able to talk to them in a private online environment at your convenience. There is a broad range of expertise in BetterHelp's 20,000 therapist network that gives you access to help that may not be in your area. You may be a college student and really needing an online experience. You may be a working mom who doesn't have the time to actually go drive to a therapist's office. Or you may be somebody that works from home and likes the convenience of being able to take a break during your day to meet with your therapist. All you need to do is just fill out a small questionnaire to be able to help assess your specific needs, and then you'll get matched with a therapist within 48 hours. Then you'll schedule a secure video and phone session, plus you'll be able to exchange unlimited messages. And that is so amazing because everything you share with them is completely confidential, which means they can't go out and share your business with other people. So the useful part about this, and I think what is amazing, is when we transitioned into the pandemic, I was able to actually meet my therapist online, and I did not realize how much of a convenience that was. And it was so helpful. So if you get matched with a therapist and you don't like them, or you don't feel like you are really able to open up to them, you can request a new therapist at no additional charge anytime. So y'all, join the 2 million plus people who have taken charge of their mental health with an experienced BetterHelp therapist. I have a special offer for you guys for the Therapy as a Christian podcast listeners, where you can get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/RosalindRenee. That's better, BETTER, help, HELP.com/RosalindRenee, RosalynRene. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast. Now let's get back to the show.
You know, what you're saying right now is the negative pattern of negative self-talk is a natural byproduct of a core lie. And a lot of us are trying to change the byproduct without dealing with the core lie. Right? Like, the core lie is going to be expressed in some way, in some place. So like, if we want to change our patterns, if we want to change how we show up in the world, we have to check the core lies that motivate us. Right? Like, even the idea that like I can only be motivated by shame. Right? I can only be motivated by punishment, right? Like that idea, like the natural fruit of that is for you to punish yourself so that you can be productive, you know, so that you can show up and do all the things that life demands of you. But if you came to me and you were just like, I want to stop my negative self-talk, I could give you a bunch of worksheets and, you know, give you some affirmations, but it's not going to work because there's a deeper trauma that needs to be addressed. And even if you stopped, and I see this a lot, there are people who do learn how to stop speaking poorly about themselves, but then they start restricting what they eat, right? Or then they just find a new way to punish themselves, right? I'm going to restrict what I eat, new diet. And then if they get off a diet, I'm going to start working out 5 days a week in a way that like exhausts me. Like, there are people I even
They're
work
still
with,
punishing themselves. They just change how.
Yeah, I've even worked with people, several people who literally like cannot enjoy a workout unless the workout is like painful enough. Right? Like, the proof that like I have done something good, it's like if I'm in pain, right? And there's like a motif of punishing. Now everybody's patterns are about punishing. Some people's patterns are lying, right? And we don't like talking about that. We like to make it seem like lying is just a moral thing. Lying is a protective thing. There's some people who have learned that the truth is not safe with other people, so they just don't tell it. Not because they don't want to, but because they're trying to stay safe.
I gotta get some. Telling y'all, she says it's water. We're gonna find out. Keep going.
It's water, you know, and like I think that we have to stop being so quick to just adapt to and adopt the world's perspective of how people are hurt. Like I've talked about the victim mentality before. I got semi-dragged on social media for this. It was bad, but I said like people who always play the victim are people who were the victim but weren't ever acknowledged for it. And so every chance they get, they're trying to let you see them as the victim because at one point they were the victim and everyone looked past them. So now they feel like they have to stick it in everyone's face to get you to see the truth of how much pain that they're in, right? It goes back to like what you were saying about the boy who cried wolf, right? That like it's easy to just moralize the way that people hurt us. Mm-hmm. You're good or you're bad. You're right or you're wrong, right? But like there's so much more nuance to that. And like we look at people who lie and call them a liar, but like do we give them the opportunity to grow and change? Do we give them the opportunity to feel safe enough to tell us the truth, right? Or do we continue to shame them? Because those patterns that we find socially unacceptable are still someone trying to protect something that's valuable to them, right? And I think that's one of the more beautiful things that I help my clients see when they're in process of changing their patterns but are struggling to do so. Is like, I know it doesn't seem like it, but you actually really love yourself, which is why you're fighting so hard to protect yourself, right? Even if it means like, it's almost like the world's going to hurt me no matter what. This is how I can manage that pain. I'll beat him to the punch.
At least now there's boundaries on it, right?
Yeah.
You know how far it can go and how far it can't.
Exactly, right? And when you're in front and you're leading people, you decide where it starts and where it stops, right? Even in our negative patterns, oftentimes we are really trying to like protect ourselves from pain. But the patterns that we don't address are always connected to the pain. Rather, the patterns that we can't change are always connected to the pain we haven't addressed. So like, if you're in a place where you're like, okay, I want to start changing these patterns, I would ask the question I asked you. If you could never engage in this pattern again, what emotion would you have to feel? Right? If you couldn't have that glass of wine before bed every night.
Don't come for my glass of wine. Right?
You don't have a glass of wine every night.
No,
Goodbye.
I don't. But if I did, it would be Mayomi. Check it out.
Mayomi
delicious.
is very good.
It's Pinot Noir from Oregon. It's great.
But if you,
shameless plug.
If you, not sponsored. If you couldn't, for me, and this is going to sound like wild. My therapist asked me this, and it was, I felt brutalized and dragged by her. She was like, if you had to eat whatever you wanted to, got to eat whatever you wanted to, but like it didn't taste like anything, like what would you feel? Because me, I like to cope with something a little spicy, a little salty, a little sour. I love food, right? And like food helps me feel better. And she was like, if you got food but you didn't get any of the feel good feelings from it, what would you have to feel? Sadness? Frustration?
That sounds like a fate worse than death. Keep it hot. If someone just tomorrow took all the flavor out of food,
yes,
and
like it was a thing for me that like food is something I love, food is something we need, but like my therapist could see how food was being used as a band-aid instead of a tool for subsistence.
Yeah.
Right, sustenance, not subsistence. Right, and like I was trying, and and it was safe to do that, right? The same thing with like sex. Like it's safe to be like, oh, well, I'm married, so like sex is normal, but how are you using it in marriage? Right? How are you using it in your relationship? Is it a means to connection or is it a means to distraction?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And like not saying that like every single moment needs to be a deep, intimate, like soul searching moment, but like how are you regularly utilizing these things that you engage with regularly? So I would start with that question. Like,
keep it hot. You remove sex from a relationship and it doesn't work at all. it's probably not a relationship that works at all. I'm not saying like sex is great.
And it's a big part of relationships.
You know, every time it asks me on the forum, sex, I say yes, please, right? Like not male, female. I just write it in. So I'm not hating. But if you remove it and you don't have a relationship, you probably don't have a relationship. There's a lot of people self-medicating their loneliness within a relationship by throwing some sex on it.
Absolutely. 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 So when we want to heal, because we talked about how this season for us is really about resources to healing, like, okay, what do I do with it? I would say check the patterns that you want to change but can't. Check the things that you do that you want to stop, but there's something in you that just can't. Why can't you? What would you have to face if you had to, if you had no choice, if it was taken from you? And I think that that's a good place to process with yourself, your small group, your pastor, your friends, your partner, whoever.
Yeah. Agreed. I'll do the outro this time, babe. I don't remember how you do the outro.
Oh my goodness. You guys, thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to be back with you guys for season 5. Go grab my new book that is on pre-order right now. Why Am I Like This? How to break patterns, break cycles rather, heal from trauma, and restore your faith. The goal is New York Times bestseller. So go grab a copy or 2 or 5. The link is going to be in the show notes. Also, if you're looking for an amazing community of people to grow, laugh, cry with, join the Inner Circle. There's free courses, free devotionals, free community, free Q&As. I moved Ask Kobe to that. And then also, if you need therapy, then you can visit my practice website. What's it called? It's brain fart.
Healing Circle Therapy.
Yeah, healingcircletherapy.org. The link is going to be in the show notes. Maria, who is amazing, is my clinician, and she does services in English and in Spanish. And Kyle is going to be a coach with the practice. So if you want someone who's not me, but married to me,
there you go.
Stole your joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you just need a guy, you just need a dude. You're like, hey, I don't need real help. I just need a body. Call your boy, all right? I will be the warm body in front of you, and we'll just talk, man. You know, we'll chop it up. I really, I'm only focusing on seeing men, by the way. So, you know, just so you know. All right.
Well, you guys, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon until the circle comes back around. Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode takeover with the Therapy for Christians podcast. We are so excited to share a little bit of our wisdom and insight with you guys, and we had so much fun making this episode. I want to invite you guys to be a part of something beautiful and powerful. I want to invite you to be a part of getting a message of healing, hope, and restoration out to the world through buying and sharing about my book. Could you imagine a world with 10,000 people healed, 10,000 people restored, 10,000 generations renewed? How amazing would that be? So join with me and join with God in this amazing goal to get this book out to as many people as possible so that healing can be their portion. Happy healing. Bye, guys.
So, how does it feel when you play Roll Up to Win with Tim Hortons? Buy a hot or cold beverage using the Tim's app and find out. Roll in the app for a chance to win prizes ranging from free coffee and donuts to a Universal Orlando resort vacation or a sweet car. Oh, don't forget the TV. And this year, every roll is a shot at a $1,000 daily giveaway drawing for 2 $500 prizes. Roll up to win and get treated by Tim's. No purchase necessary. Account registration required. 50 U.S. and D.C. 18 plus entered by 4/2/23. See rules at rolluptowin.com for free entry or full details. Void in Florida and where prohibited.
Tackling home projects, Pathways has home equity products designed to fit your needs. Find out more at pathwayscu.com. Pathways Financial Credit Union, your true financial partner. Member NCUA, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS ID 237769.